Hello, I'm Mary Powell with Community Voices, and I'm happy here today to be with Kristi Dewitt, who lives in Laveen. She has her own business, and she's going to tell us a little bit about that. So, Kristi, please tell us, what is your business and what do you do?
What do I do? That's a great question. So my business is Manifest Your Sales. People think, oh, that sounds so woo-woo. Actually, it's very science-based. So my background is in sales and marketing. And I've been in sales since I was a Girl Scout, about 7 years old, learned a lot of skills, went to school, was educated at NAU, and learned a lot more about marketing and the sales aspect. And I learned a lot also about mindset. And mindset is the key to everything. So I think several people, hopefully listening to this, you've heard about mindset, but what does it really mean? And many people speak about it, don't go into detail, but mindset rules everything. And especially in sales, if you walk into a situation with a possible customer and the thought is, well, they're never going to buy from me. You're right. They will never buy. But, I help people who are just starting in sales, helping them to understand sales doesn't have to be scary. Sales is providing information and a solution for something that someone is seeking.
And so when you mention mindset, do you think, because you mentioned it with business, do you think it plays a role in other avenues of people's lives, like their health, or just in what ways, and how does that work?
Yes, great question. So 100%. Like I said, I help people with sales mindset, but that also trickles into other areas of their lives. So if someone, let's say, says, oh, I always have bad luck, then there's a lot more science behind it, but there's something called the reticular activating system that connects to mindset. And what that is, it's a bundle of neurons that's in your brain. And it actually helps you with several areas, bodily functions like breathing and a lot of things are wrapped into it. But the important thing to understand about that is that the reticular activating system is also kind of like your mental bouncer. So if you say, gosh, I really want, and I have to laugh that you invited me to be on this podcast, because I said, I really want to be on more podcasts. All of a sudden, Mary messages me and says, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? I'm all, So I made you proud of my quantum field, by the way.
Oh, right.
So
I like that.
There's a lot of science involved in this, but yeah. So really what you can do is, with your mindset and the reticular activating system, you can actually program your mind to look for opportunities. So if you make clear and concise statements, otherwise known as affirmations, you can really program your life to follow a direct path. So I'll give this as an example. Many people go through life just kind of aimless, right? You've heard, I want to find my purpose. Well, I think you have multiple purposes in life, by the way, but if you don't set an intention of where you want to go, it's kind of like a log floating down the lazy river, bumping up against the sides. And you might end up at a destination close to where you want.
Yes.
But if you don't define things, such as, if somebody says, yeah, I just want to get married, well, you'll just get married to anything that kind of comes along, right?
Right.
Until you define that. Also, I just want a job. Well, you can get a job anywhere. You want to dig ditches? Do you want to be an engineer? Do what do you want? And defining what you want is really about mindset, using that reticular activating system to find those opportunities.
It reminds me a little bit of hypnotherapy. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I know people think that's really woo-woo, but I mean, a lot of it's been proven to help people with smoking, with drinking, addictions, with gambling, those kinds of things, because basically your subconscious brain is told by somebody else, you no longer need this, you no longer want this, and then you follow through on it. And so it makes a lot of sense, even though it sounds strange, because the brain is the computer running everything. And so if you tell yourself, that you're not going to have anything, or that you're worthless, or that you're not worth, like if that low self-esteem kicks in, then that's kind of what you put out there to the world, right?
Oh, definitely. And neuroscience has really opened up a lot for that. So, and I love that you said that it's woo-woo, because I actually deal in what I call woo-sci. So I marry kind of the woo-woo with science. And for many years, I didn't understand why what I was doing worked. And then neuroscience came along and explained a lot of the things. And then that's where I finally I'm like, oh, I'm connecting, really using quantum physics, using the capabilities in my brain to achieve what I wanted. So I'll share a funny story with you.
Yes.
This is a visualization story. And visualization can go terribly wrong, or it can go the right way. So after this, I'll tell you tips on how to go the right way. Now, this kind of went in between. So many years ago, I was working at a company that I wasn't fulfilled, wasn't very happy with. And I said, okay, I really want to get a job in an advertising agency, because that was my forte also in college. And I really want to make a lot of money. So how can I make a lot of money really fast? Oh, I know, I'll just win the lottery. Okay, all right. So I literally at a stoplight, remember I was at 7th Avenue and I think Cave Creek Road, and it was a long stoplight, and I just kind of closed my eyes for a few seconds and visualized a pile of money and a neon sign, Arizona Lottery. I thought that was pretty clear. Fast forward, a few days later, I get an interview at an ad agency, and they said, hey, here's the thing. We think you're well qualified, but we don't have a position for you. I'm like, oh, this is not working, right? So I thought. And they said, well, we have a client. We think you'd be perfect. We can't reveal to you what the client is. You're going to meet with them. And I'm thinking, this is the weirdest interview process I've ever been through, but okay. You're going to meet with them, and then if they feel that you have the right fit for their company, they'll, let us know. Great. So I went through the process, met with them. Everything went great. Met offsite. I had no idea who I was interviewing with. I got the job.
Wow.
And which was exciting. So I finally was like, oh, I really wanted to work in an agency, but I got this instead. And I was like, well, I really wanted a big pile of money. And I'm making about $5,000-$6,000 more. And I'm like, wow, I'm so excited that I'm the ad manager for the Arizona Lottery.
Wow.
Oh my God. How did that happen? Right? So this is where a little bit of the woo comes in.
Yes.
And I didn't even realize it until I was in it. I'd forgotten about the visualization. Yeah. And I was like, I need to be a little more clear. I wanted to win the money. But that started me on a whole new career trajectory.
Wow.
So what I recommend if somebody is visualizing, there's a lot of steps beforehand, just kind of defining what you want. And also I will add in that the universe will deliver to you in ways you would never imagine. So sometimes you have to put out there what you want and don't worry about the how.
Okay.
But after that experience, although it worked out for me in some ways, I would say if you're going to practice visualization, to write out what your intention is, what your goal or objective is, craft a story. So actually craft a story. I'd recommend recording it on your phone and play it while you visualize it. So that way you have a guide, because I don't know if you're like me, but I got monkey mind. I'm all over the place. And if you really give yourself a guide, I think that will get you where you want to go faster. And more on target.
So if I were a new client coming to you, and what would you, and again, obviously, we don't want you to do everything you do for your services because you have a business, but what are the main steps you would proceed with first with me? So
first I would ask, what are you really looking for? What, let's list out what areas you want to work on, because it's kind of, when you ask somebody, well, what do you want? That is such a huge question. This is like throwing the entire internet at you. Or remember in the old days, the Sears catalog? What do you want? Oh my God, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So what we do is break down what areas do you want to work on, and then we laser in. All right. So I always recommend working on a specific area for at least 45 to 90 days.
And why that amount of days?
Because any habits or anything we need to kind of reroute in your neural pathways, we're going to be able to do that, right? So I also, as a type A personality and somebody who wants to do everything right now, right? I have found that when we do that, it's kind of like putting you in a car and the wheels are all facing 4 different directions. And although there are 4 places you want to go, you're going to start doing this and it will overwhelm your brain. Your RAS is a little bit, woo, I'm letting in everything and so many opportunities and so many shiny things that you don't get a lot of traction in any one area. So deciding where you really want to go, what, and also what suits you. I use several modalities, and you use hypnosis, which I think is fabulous. I use, I help them to create effective affirmations and how to execute those. Work on visualization. There's also EFT, emotional freedom tapping. There's several other modalities that I use, but seeing, what feels best, what fits for you. It's not one solution fits all. If anybody ever tells you that this one thing will solve all your problems, no.
Yes, right.
What are your objectives? And what's really the end game? And what's really cool is that it affects other areas of your life. You start dialing in on this, all of a sudden, other things start popping up.
Wow.
Like I worked with a gal that had some challenges in her marriage, and I won't go into all the details, but I gave her, 2 simple things to do. And I said, call me in 2 weeks and tell me all the weird, freaky stuff that's happening. She's like, okay. 2 weeks go by. She calls me and she says, what did you do to me? And I'm like, whoa, what does that mean? She said, she said, first of all, I've had more energy than I've ever had. She's like, I'm beaming. Total strangers are coming up to me. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I know. This is the stuff I told you would happen. And she said, business deals were dropping into her lap out of the sky. She's like, but I thought I was working on this. I'm like, oh, I know. But what happens is it's that overall effect in your life. You start putting out different vibrations, energetic vibrations, and everything else, all ships rise, right? And it's exciting. It's fulfilling for me when I see these results.
Yes.
It gets me excited. It's honestly, it's addictive.
So
it really is addictive.
Do you think it's because people are putting out because again, there's going to be people who watch this are skeptical, like, right, I wish I had $1 million. I'm going to have that. But do you think it's the confidence that they're exuding, and then people just have more, think the person has more credibility, or what do you think?
I think it's, well, we've all heard of imposter syndrome also, right? But it's really, you have to buy into your own story. You really need to be committed and buy into your own story. Because if you truly believe that you're going to accomplish something, and it also has to be something that you truly deep in your heart want. I mean, I can say, I want to win a Lamborghini. I don't really mean it.
Right.
It's not going to change my life in some way. But if I say something, if somebody is gravely ill, let's say, it's like, wow, I would love to get access to a top medical team, or, I mean, this is not probably a bad example, but there are certain things that you can attract through, like I said, this is quantum physics, this is science, this is so much goes into this. And if somebody doesn't believe something will work for them, then they are right. They are right, because they will make it so it doesn't work. You
mentioned at the beginning about manifesting what you want, and we're inundated with so many messages online and in the phone, and most of it's talking about money. So a lot of people would say, I just want unlimited money. But I guess what I was going to ask you is, how do we know what we really want? How do we know what's just the outside messages in our brain versus what's really best for us? How do you figure that out?
Right. Well, and sometimes the things that we think we want, the universe helps us out and doesn't deliver them. And so I got to think on that answer. But an example of that was, I remember, when I was in high school, I really wanted a part in this one play. And I knew it. I had it. I nailed it. I auditioned. It was mine. And they did not cast me. And I thought, what's wrong with them? So later I went to watch the show, and I was so grateful I did not get cast in that show. They were trying to do a modern version of Wizard of Oz, and it would miss the mark. It was horrific. I went to support I knew people in the show. I went to support them, and I was like, whoo, dodged a bullet. But aren't there times in your life when you have thought about, wow, I really wanted this, but I dodged a bullet?
Yes.
I
You thought you wanted it, but you didn't really know
Yeah.
what it was, maybe.
Right. So sometimes, and I feel that's sort of the woo, is it helps you, but how do you know what you really want? So I would say, flushing out the ideas of, let's say somebody wants more love in their life, right? So you go, all right, let me throw that out on the table. All right, what does that mean? How is that defined? What am I willing to put into this? What am I? Because it's not just about what somebody else can give you, but what you can give somebody else, right?
Right.
So I wrote a book called Stories from the Dating Trenches. I don't know if it's still in print or not, but in that book I defined how you go about deciding what is it you really want. You want a serious relationship, and what does that mean? What is that person? What are the characteristics that person has? And you clearly define it. And if there's characteristics that you don't want them to have, I would say take a piece of paper, write everything down on one side what you want, on the other side what you don't want. And then take the don't wants and flip them into wants. So instead of, I don't want a guy who's a cheater, say I want somebody who's loyal to me.
Got you.
Right? So you take that,
the positive.
You flip it to the positive. And then there's a lot more to this formula than just laying this out, but we don't have that much time. But because of that list and what was written in that book, this book and these techniques have been credited with 21 engagements and 20 marriages.
Wow.
20. Mine being one of them, by the way.
Wow.
I practice what I preach. So this is some powerful stuff, and it has to do also with writing it down. But defining what you really want and then understanding why do you want it? Do you want it because somebody else said you should want it? Or do you want it because you really do want it?
So the reasons matter. It's not just what you want. Is it really a truthful reason why you want it?
Right. Because you've heard about what's my why, but why do you really want it? Is it because your family said you should do this? Or society said you should do this? Or do you really want to do this? I mean, I didn't get married till I was 35 because I did not want to get married. I did not want to do that. And then at 35, I just had this epiphany and I said, I think it's time. And I was dating my husband for a while. And I finally announced to him, hey, if you want to get married, great. If you don't, then that's okay. I'll go somewhere else. He's like, wait a minute, whoa. I want to marry you. I'm like, oh, okay. So, I mean, but I did not want that at that point in my life because of my own desires, not because, and trust me, my parents really wanted me to get married.
Yes, right. And do you ever work with clients or do you ever meet people where you find that it's difficult for them to hone in on what their truth is or what they really want? And does it become ever, I don't want to say frustrating, but just, are you ever able to just honestly tell somebody, hey, what you think you want is not, and this isn't going to work out, or no? Do you let them figure it out for themselves?
So I will give gentle pushes. It's all about what they really want, right? I mean, it's all locked in their head. I actually did almost work with somebody, and then I said, I just don't think this is going to work.
Okay.
It was actually a gentleman that he could never find a sane. All the girls he dated were crazy. They were all crazy, and it was all about them. And he told me, I knew within the first 10 seconds, I'm like, I know exactly what's going on here. But in the first 10 seconds, I said, okay, so tell me, what do all these women have in common? And so he started listing all the crazy stuff they did. And I said, okay, but what else do you think they all had in common? And he's like, well, and I said, you. They had you in common. And so do you think there's something you're doing to attract a certain type of personality, possibly to bring out a certain reaction from people that maybe is not getting what you really want? I said, maybe if you sit down. So I started coaching him, but the message wasn't landing. He was so set in that it was everybody else and not him.
What makes What do you think made him so set in that? And maybe other people who just can't recognize. Do you think they're kind of being untruthful with themselves, or what do you think it is? Or they just honestly don't know? Or...
Well, we all like to think we're perfect, right? And sometimes we need to take some reflection and say, all right, well, maybe what is the possibility that maybe it's something I'm doing? Maybe I'm argumentative. Maybe I'm really set in my ways and not very open-minded. Maybe, what are those things? And if you want to stay that way, then you're going to stay that way and you're going to keep going down that same path. But to this day, this guy is, well, and it's funny because we actually talked rates. And then when I told him my rate, which was ridiculously low, he said, well, I'm not paying that much. I said, okay, well, in, a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, when we talk again, tell me how that worked for you. He's still single. So, and it's been 12 years.
Wow.
It's been 12 years. But no, if somebody doesn't recognize that maybe they're limiting themselves in their career, right? And they say, I could never do that. I mean, I've counseled many a person on, you don't know if you don't go for it. You don't know if you don't ask.
Yes.
And having that self-confidence, and that's part of this whole thing, is building up your own self-confidence. And for the love of God, stop looking at Facebook for that.
Or Instagram, or TikTok, or whatever.
That's a highlights reel.
Yes.
That's a highlights reel.
And it's not all real anyway. Now there's so much AI out there that how do you know what's real and what's not? And it actually reminded me, because we've all known people, and if you're watching this, maybe even you've experienced this, and this is no fault of your own at all. But I've had friends who've been abused. The father was verbally abusive, the mother, where there's domestic violence, it might be even worse than that. And then they're attracted to these people or these that are abusive to them because they think that's what love is, that's what they know. But that's just one example, right? There's several examples we could have where maybe we were in school and we felt like we weren't intelligent, and then we go off to be an adult. Maybe we really are, but we're still stuck in that mindset. How do you take a pattern that has been so long from when someone's a child, 40 years, 50 years as an adult, and get them to see that they can still break that pattern when it's been so much a part of their mold? How do you help that person?
That's a lot of work. That is a lot of work. And I think it really starts with recognizing what is the issue you're trying to overcome, and then how can we work together to get past that. Now, I do encourage people, if somebody does need a counselor, somebody needs a psychiatrist, a psychologist, definitely go down that avenue. And then do some self-help work as well. You can get past some things. I worked with a realtor that she said that she had spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars working with a therapist, and that was good. I was like, that's great. But I made her sit down and do an exercise that her therapist was not able to get her to do for 15 years.
Wow.
She's like, I can't believe you made me do this. I'm like, I didn't really make you do it, but you did it on your own free will. But it was in an atmosphere that was different than what she had been dealing with. So, but to answer the question, I think that there's several ways to look at that, and working on, there are several tools out there as well. There's several apps out there that you can play that have self-hypnosis. That's, recordings that will help work with those neural pathways. So neuroscience has discovered that if you're always thinking this way, like money's bad, money's evil, money's bad, then guess what? You're not going to make any money.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be evil and bad, right? But if it's almost like a neural pathway has been grooved. And then you start replacing that with other thoughts, like money is good. I can do a lot of good things with my money. I can help other people. I can help myself. I can help my family. And you start redefining what that means. You can, over time, and it could be a very fast path, but if it's a long set belief, it's going to take longer. But you can atrophy that belief and start to go in a different direction. Yes. So if somebody has been subjected to a life of abuse, they need to look really deep into, okay, I'm not going to make this change overnight, and I'm not going to change everything right away, but what small step can I take? What can I take? Maybe I can start attracting more positive people in my life.
Yes.
And that could be a path that they start to concentrate on and really start to regroove, because they thought that once those patterns were in place, that was set. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, they've changed their minds. Literally changed their minds.
Yes. And getting people to know that it's okay to, and I'm terrible at this, by the way, but getting people to know it's okay to love yourself. But because I think everyone's afraid also, it's just, we're in this weird modality right now where everyone posts photos of themselves, but then we're like afraid to say that what we're doing is good or that we're worthy because we're afraid of maybe being portrayed as egotistical or just
narcissistic.
Yeah. But that's really important, is actually liking yourself enough to want and manifest good things in your life. So how did you get into this? What do you think in your background made you make this leap to start a business helping people do this?
Right. Well, I got into this when I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. Didn't know it. Didn't know it. So my parents, they both worked full-time jobs. Then they were the OGs of, side gigs. And they started their own business. And as part of that, was the power of positive thinking was a big influence on them. Their mentors, Norman Vincent Peale and all these in the 70s, all these big thought leaders. So I was exposed to all these thinkings and all of these techniques. And then I'll try to make it quick because I know we're running out of time. I was 13 years old. And I was a major introvert when I was younger. I mean, I went to Disneyland where I would not pose with Mickey Mouse because I was too shy. I mean, I was a crippling introvert. And I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to be more outgoing. I want to be, I want more adventures. I'm tired of living in the shadows. So a friend of ours, their daughter was going to a positive mental attitude camp in Michigan, and I was in Alaska. I really wanted to go. So I came to my parents, made the proposal. I want to go to this camp. This is why. And they're like, okay. So they wanted to teach me a life lesson. All right. She really wants to do something. Let her figure out how to raise the money for either the camp or the airfare. So one was more expensive than the other. And they said, okay, if you cover this camp, I think it was $1,200 or something at the time, then we'll pay for the airfare.
Okay.
I said, okay. So at 13, I had to figure out how to come up with $1,200 in 3 months. Wow. Okay. 13. How many dogs can I walk? Lawns can I mow? What can I do? And I went through this whole thing and I thought, well, no, I've got a solution. So I came to them. So this was 1982 or 83. And I told my parents, I said, okay, so I have a solution. I'm going to get a job. And they're thinking, you're 13. There's no way. Now this is before child labor laws. Just so you know. So I said, yeah, I want. And my mom's like, okay, well, were you going to work at McDonald's or Taco Bell, or where are you going to get a job? I said, yeah, I'm going to work at Nordstrom.
Wow.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, there's no way they're going to hire her. So I found the open interview day, and I went in, and I was very dressed. Remember those old the Western look?
Yeah.
Do you remember that, where they had like the broomstick, the jean skirts? Anyway, I was all dressed up. I went in for my interview, and my mother went with me because, of course, I couldn't drive because I was 13.
Right.
I come out. She says, "How did it go?" And I said, "I'll tell you in the car." She's like, "Oh man, this is gonna be bad." We get in the car. She's like, "So?" And I said, "I start on Monday."
Wow.
She's like, "What?" So, and the day after I got hired, everybody in Nordstrom got a $1 raise. I was making $7 an hour at age
great.
Oh my God, at age 13 in 1983.
Yeah.
Before this whole thing happened, I was so focused in, and I said the affirmations, and I visualized. I'm like, I'm getting this job. This is where I'm going. I'm getting the money. It's going to happen. It wasn't a question of if. It was just, it's going to happen.
Yes.
And I think through that power of positivity, and also I believe there was a lot of naivety, because nobody around me believed I could do it. Nobody believed. So this is a message I want to be sure to get very clear, is even when nobody believes in you and what you can do, guess what? You have the power to make that happen. And at 13, I mean, I wasn't remarkable by any means, but I was for that job. I got to put away clothes in the children's department at age 13.
Well, and it goes to show you never know. To take healthy risks like that. I mean,
yes.
And I always like to weigh out what's the worst case scenario. The
Right.
worst case scenario would be you'd be back where you started. You wouldn't get
Right.
the job and you'd work somewhere else.
Right.
And so I think taking those calculated risks are good. And I'm sure that built your confidence for later on. Because to do that at 13, then you said, well, if I could do Nordstrom's,
What else could I do?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's really important that people hear that.
Oh, and I went to the camp.
Okay,
In the Plaza
great.
Valley to camp, and that
Great.
changed my life. That changed
In
my
what way?
life. I went from a wallflower to who I am today. Pretty outgoing. I don't think you can be a
Yes.
salesperson by being, introverted. And I've taken some big risks and safe risks.
Yes.
I've applied for the job, or I, went for the project, or I've done some remarkable things where I never thought was possible. And it happened because I believed in myself. I believed in my capabilities. I did have the knowledge. But letting somebody else dictate what you're going to do is not going to get you where you want to go.
Right. I wanted to ask you one other question. So at the camp, how did they get you to go from introverted to extroverted? What types of things?
Right. So they taught how to do affirmations, how to do visualization.
Okay.
They taught us about karma. They taught some pretty cool, wild, like, woo,
70s.
out there stuff. Yeah. It was like in the 80s, but
80s, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very positive atmosphere. It was, I think there were about 50 kids in total at this camp. And it was all focused on, understanding that karmic warehouse. Also, that karma. I looking back, I'm like, that was some pretty
And define
advanced stuff.
karma for people who may not be as
karma,
familiar.
all right, so you build up karma. So and karma can go a couple of ways. When you build up good things, so do good for others, and hopefully that karma comes back to you.
Yes.
And you build that karma and it will multiply. Now, you do some bad stuff, that karma comes back too. Now, sometimes it doesn't always hit its target, unfortunately. But karma is really, it's an essence. And for me, I feel like it's energy, that it's good energy that you're building. And I had a recent experience that there was a person in a position of power in my life that built up a lot of bad karma. And it all came back on this person.
Wow.
In a hard way. And just, when you do the right thing for the right reasons, I really truly believe, and this is a little bit of the woo, that it does come back and it does serve you and it helps you direct you in the right direction.
Yes.
And again, keeping you from the stuff that you thought you wanted to do, but really isn't the best for you.
Yes. And so if someone wants to reach out and find you, how can they do that?
Good question. So I can be found on Facebook at Manifest Your Sales, and you'll recognize me. I'm wearing blue like I am today. So you can find me on Facebook, and I just started the group. So please come on, make some comments. Would love to hear your stories, even with what you're struggling with, and see if we can connect and if there's a way I can assist them.
That's really great. And I encourage you as well, if you're watching this and you're a small business owner or you're in the Levine community, even if you're not a business owner and you're interested in being on this podcast and telling your story, just kind of paying it forward and sharing ideas with others that you think would be helpful or inspirational, reach out to me, Mary Powell. So I'm at Community Voices with Kristi Dewitt and signing off. So thank you for joining us.
That's great karma.